Struggling, we're relying on each other, or we're having to suddenly incur a lot of expenses.
I think we can land a deal that averts a strike on Monday.
Thousands of families will be watching to see what happens in this building over the weekend as CUPE and the province try to avert a school strike. A strike would see more than 50,000 education workers walk off the job and shut down schools right across the GTA come Monday. Let's bring in Farah Morelli. Now, Farah, parents are hoping a deal can be reached, but they're making plans just in case.
They're making plans, Dwight, and one of those plans, backup plans, I should say, could be to bring their kids here. The ROM, the museum, announced today that it's launching a full-day camp for kids if parents are still looking for options if there is a strike on Monday. And let me tell you, a lot of parents still are looking for options. The City of Toronto told us today didn't have time to set up any additional day camps. It was just too little notice. But one of the things that the parents I spoke to today told me is the biggest source of stress is really the uncertainty. The Director of Education at the TDSB told us today that even if a deal is reached moments before Monday, they plan to open schools, and that's causing parents a lot of stress.
T-Dot Tumblers is used to offering camps for kids, but not during a regular school day. That'll change next week.
I think it's important for kids to have a place to go. I think a lot of our clientele, parents will be working and kids will either have to stay home all day or be babysat, or it'll just be a hassle for parents. So this is a place they can come to.
It's one of the private facilities in the city that's now stepping up to offer childcare, with the threat of school closures looming, a threat that's left parents across the city anxious.
I know a couple of the programs that we normally deal with are struggling to suddenly put together strike day camps. So, and of course they kind of have the parents a little bit over a barrel because we need to pay whatever we need to pay to make it happen, to make our kids safe.
How long we're going to be out for, there's just no telling anybody. So we'll see what happens, and we're just trying to prepare her. You may or may not go and see how that goes.
We don't have family in the city, so we are going to have to pay for care. And there's some limited spots available at the Kiwanis Boys and Girls Club where Joe already goes for before and after school care. So we'll be on the computer at the last minute, probably the night before. I think we might have to register every night before. I'm still figuring it out, but we'll have to it's stressful.
I want you guys to work on the classified balance sheet.
The possibility of a strike is having ripple effects. The City of Toronto run recreation programs, pool activities, and after-school care programs held in schools are all being cancelled. Meanwhile, some municipalities are stepping in to help. In Vaughan, the city is working with a local community centre to offer full-day camps.
How hard was it to sort of quickly mobilize and decide that you were going to step in and put these programs in?
We quickly assessed it, and I think we've made the right decision. We're at least providing, or would be providing, some respite to individuals that are going to be facing challenges.
Staff at Valour Village Community Centre have scrambled to get more staff on standby and to accommodate students in activity rooms with programs they already have in place. Brampton and Oakville are also stepping in to offer day camps. With no additional day camps being offered in Toronto, it'll be up to parents to find alternative private options like these. That is, if they're not all full.
Now, Dwight, one more thing that parents should keep in mind as well to look at on Monday is transit disruptions. We did hear from Metrolinx today that they do plan to have regular service as per every Monday, but there is the possibility for cancellation of some GO Transit buses, and that they're asking people check that on Monday morning. So just another thing to add to the list of things parents can be stressed about as they head into Monday. Dwight.
And it's already a long list. Thank you for that, Farah. CUPE and the province are now sitting down. Both sides say they want to avoid a strike. Lisa Shing is live at the Sheraton on Queen. Lisa, that's where bargaining has just resumed.
It has, Dwight, and this is the first time the two sides have met since talks broke down last Sunday. Now, all of this has played out over the span of a week. After talks broke down, CUPE members, that's educational assistants, janitors, as well as early childhood educators, started a Work to Rule campaign on Monday, and then 3 days after that, announced their intention to start a strike this coming Monday if the province and the union don't come to an agreement. So it can be seen as a bit bit of a pressure tactic, if you will, to try and get that agreement with the province. Here's what the union has to say.
What will it take to get a deal this weekend?
We need commitments to service security. We need respect.
And that means what?
We need to see a reversal of the cuts that have been made. We need to see improvement in frontline services, and we need to see commitment for those frontline services as we move forward.
Now, the Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, also says that he wants an agreement, so both sides seem like they're willing to reach a deal before Monday. But at this point, school boards have already sent notices to parents, as you heard in Farah's story, to try and come up with alternative childcare plans. As for teachers, they will be going to work and crossing those picket lines.
So, Lisa, what is the biggest issue right now?
So the biggest point of contention is absenteeism or sick days. The province says it's costing the government too much money right now, approximately $35 million a day, in fact, and that's not sustainable. But the union also says these workers are underpaid. They make approximately $38,000 a year on average. They're mostly women and also overworked as well. They say currently they're not going to be budging on this issue, but we'll see what happens on both sides to see what they'll do to avoid a strike on Monday, Dwight.
Thank you, Lisa. Now, before negotiations began today, I caught up with Ontario's Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, to ask him about the upcoming strike and what he's doing to make sure students are in class on Monday.
And I just wanted families out there to know right across Ontario, but particularly in the GTA, but right across Ontario, that we are focused on getting a deal that keeps their kid in class. And I need that spirit of cooperation, that openness, that reasonableness that we've demonstrated to date to be matched by the other parties, particularly the union. I mean, the fact is we really wouldn't be in this situation if we were meeting over the past days. But regrettably, we're meeting through the weekend, and my hope in my heart of hearts is that there's still a credible pathway to get a deal to avert the circumstance that's been imposed on us by the union.
Do you know what is happening in the schools? Do they need to close them on Monday?
Right.
Even just from the Work to Rule campaign?
Yeah, I mean, it's, these decisions are being made by
the
boards.
School boards, yeah, Peel, Toronto.
That's right.
Yeah.
Out of an abundance of caution, they're citing security, and I'm going to take them at their word. And I mean, those decision points are predicated on safety, and I will never want to compromise safety. I think that's in keeping with my principle of, also why I raised questions about the 7th directive that the union put out on Monday when it comes to Work to Rule was not to administer medication to staff. I mean, anytime these types of things can manifest where safety can be compromised, it raises concerns for me. So I'm going to yield to the decisions of boards. What I can say to boards and to families and to the trustees and the unions is that if all those entities sit down this weekend with an open mind and a willingness and a reasonableness, I think we can land a deal that averts a strike on Monday, but it requires the other parties, particularly the union, to come with that spirit.
CUPE says their main concern is service security. They saw job cuts and losses. Cuts are something people expected from your government, but is it fair to those educational support staff who already say they feel unsupported and underpaid?
Yeah, I mean, overall within the ministry, we've increased investments in education. Having said that, notwithstanding those investments, this is actually not about us, it's about the kids themselves. And what I'm trying to signal is on issues like absenteeism, where we have an average of 15 days being utilized of sick days a year on average for CUPE members, which is costing the whole system.
Are you accusing them of taking advantage of the system then with that?
No, I'm asserting that the numbers are disproportionately high, higher than teachers in the same sector, higher than the private sector. So what I'm simply saying is the program of offering 11 full-time, 1,100% paid days and 120 and 90%, that we need to look at how those monies being directed to absenteeism could be redirected to help your child get ahead. And my point is we have a binary choice. We can choose to allow those dollars to continue to challenge the education system. Premier Wynne and others, including today, have noted that that's been a perennial concern. And so I think that's a bipartisan consensus that we've got to try to improve the student experience to end the revolving door of staff coming through our schools. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to give you the impression that is the singular impediment. There is a pathway to get a deal on that issue amongst others, and we're going to be a flexible force at the table to land that deal.
Do you have any fears that people are playing politics here? We have federal leaders debate on the same day this should start. We know the election date is just a couple of weeks ago as part of the decision that's being made here based on, you think, the politics of the situation.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could opine on what's driving it. I think those are very curious points. But I think for me, the bottom line is, notwithstanding what has driven to this point, I hope there's a sobriety of mind for all of us at the table this weekend so that we can get a deal for kids. I'm not sure parents at the end of the day care what's driving their decision. They just want them to hear one message, which is all parties need to sit down and put their child first, and I'm prepared to do that this weekend so that we can get a deal and keep kids in class.
It seems sad that we're not focused on student success and improving the system, that we're going through all of this right now.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You can watch my full 7-minute interview with Stephen Lecce online at cbc.ca/Toronto, along with a written Q&A of our conversation. You can find it all on the CBC News app. The negotiations are on the way to try to avert a strike and keep schools open next week. We will take you back to the Sheraton Hotel on Queen after 6:30 with the very latest on the negotiations. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer was in Toronto today unveiling his plan for how to crack down on gang crime.
We will eliminate automatic bail for gang members. We'll also create a process to automatically revoke parole for convicted criminals who associate with gangs after they have been released from prison. We'll also create new sentences for violent gang crime. Anyone who commits a violent gang crime will spend at least 5 years behind bars, and we will vigorously defend these sentences against legal challenges.
Scheer also said if elected, his government would create a border task force to crack down on guns being smuggled into Canada from the U.S. Watch as all 6 federal party leaders face off in the English language debate on Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. We've got you covered wherever and however you want to tune in. Watch on CBC TV, CBC News Network, CBC Gem, or the CBC News app. For more details on how to watch, visit cbcnews.ca/debate.
Home sales are going up, and so is the price. The average Toronto home is now selling for about $900,000. This one here behind me sold for $1 million over asking just this week. I'm Ali Chiasson. Coming up, we will talk more about the stats and trends of Toronto's hot housing market.
So, Colette, we promised a warm-up on Sunday. I am just wondering if that's still in the forecast.
Does it have something to do with what you're seeing behind me?
I'm wondering what that is, Colette, because the F word is up there, and you know how we feel about that. It's a family show. We try not to say the F word on the show.
I know. I hate saying
and
it
you're
too,
gonna
but
say it.
Here it is. Frost advisory, folks. Yeah, it's in place. It doesn't mean we won't see some warmer temperatures into Sunday, and I'll get more into that a little later in the show. But it is my duty to inform you that we do have advisories, and they are creeping closer towards the city, but include many of us throughout the GTA. You can see this area right here. Yeah, the city of Toronto not included, but still some very cool numbers. They're not going to be up freezing, but some areas to the north likely will be, but very close to the freezing mark here. All the areas you see in gray, and this extends all the way towards the Ottawa Valley and north into Cottage Country. We're looking at those frost advisories tonight for some at least patchy frost to develop. Current temperatures, we're still holding on to some double digits there, so 11 degrees at the moment. The winds have eased up a little bit, but they've primarily been from a northerly direction, whether it was northeast or a little more north throughout the day, and so a cool breeze in the air too, especially when they were a little stronger earlier in the downtown core. You get between those buildings, you get that wind tunnel, and boy, it felt a little chilly. So here you go. Nothing to worry about in terms of precipitation tonight, likely why we're going to see some of this frost development. We'll see that changing Saturday night into Sunday. I'll take you through the timeline of that coming up. Just know tonight 3 degrees for our low, tomorrow afternoon 14, but with quite a bit of sunshine through the day tomorrow.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
If you've lived in Parkdale long enough, you may remember a time when this monument lit up at night and also functioned as a fountain. But it hasn't been that way for years. I'm Talia Ricci, and coming up, we see how the artist feels about that and also find out what the next plans are for the monument.
Imagine getting $1 million over asking for your home. That was the reality for some lucky homeowners in the city. And it's not just a one-time thing. The city's housing market is booming. Alicia Son has more.
If you're not a homeowner, this story is gonna hurt.
Actually, I showed a client a home just around the corner from here for $2.6 million. In one day, we had 3 offers and sold for 3.1.
It's a good time to be a real estate broker in Toronto.
So people are just hounding.
According to the Toronto Real Estate Board, 7,825 homes were sold last month. That's up 22% from this time last year. And it's not like housing prices have gone down, quite the opposite. Right now, the average sale price for any style of home is a whopping $843,000. It's not out of an abundance either.
Supply is actually down, hence why prices are slightly up by 5.6%.
Toronto's just getting more appealing to buyers.
Great banking sector, a great tech sector, lots of immigration, world-class restaurants, shopping, you got a lake, first-class basketball team. You really can't ask much more.
It's influencing buying behavior, too.
If we go back in time a year ago, you used to have a lot more conditions. I want to sell my house first. I want a home inspection. I'm a little more picky. I want my closing date that I like. Now people are saying, okay, what closing do you want? What deposit do you want? I've got my financing. Let's get a deal done.
This house in Greektown sold for $1.2 million over asking.
So how long is this going to last? Toronto was just ranked the world's second biggest housing bubble by the investment firm UBS. Well, according to the experts we talked to today, the combination of improving mortgage conditions and the petering Canadian dollar makes it unlikely that it'll burst anytime soon. Alicia Son, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, we go where even RCMP investigators haven't been, inside an illegal tech support scam in India.
That is the reason I'm calling you. Your identity is getting compromised by 2 unauthorized people.
What does it say that we were able to get inside a call center like this? Get right inside of it. But there aren't raids going on against a place like that by RCMP or Indian police.
More on that marketplace investigation coming up. But first,
the real problem is that a lot of the applications that they have to use in the hospital are older applications.
The Ontario hospitals, 3 Ontario hospitals have been hacked, threatening private patient information. One of the targeted hospitals is right here in Toronto. We'll hear what they have to say about it coming up next.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
I'm Dwight Drummond here at the Mars Discovery District. For the first time ever, people under the age of 35 make up the largest voting bloc in the federal election. So CBC Toronto, in partnership with Mars, is bringing together a group of young voters to discuss why it's important that they exercise their enormous power. They have the ability to choose who becomes our next leader. So will they? Join us for the conversation here at Mars or online. For more information, head to the CBC Toronto Facebook page. Hackers have crippled the computer systems of 3 Ontario hospitals in recent weeks, including Michael Garron Hospital here in Toronto. Malware attacks like these can lock network systems, putting crucial patient information out of the reach from medical staff. As Cass Russi explains, cyber criminals commonly use this method to demand ransom from their victims.
It happened last week. Hackers infiltrated this Toronto hospital's computer systems with an ominous warning: your business is at serious risk. A malicious software called Ryuk blocked access to all information, including healthcare records and patients' charts. Michael Garron Hospital went into what's called a code gray.
So we proactively shut down 52 of our approximate 150 servers. Proactively, we quickly stopped the spread of the virus, and we have slowly been restoring our systems when we're sure they are safe.
The malware virus comes with a ransom demand by the hackers to get the system unlocked.
And we never pursued any ransom.
Hospitals are particularly vulnerable to cyber attacks because they rely on specialized software that rarely gets updated.
The real problem is that a lot of the applications that they have to use in the hospital are older applications that require that they stay on these older versions, and that just leaves them vulnerable.
Recently, 2 other hospitals in southwestern Ontario have also had cyber attacks. The hospitals said they paid no ransom, and the systems are slowly recovering. The city of Woodstock was also hit with a virus. And in April, the city of Stratford paid a $75,000 ransom after a cyber attack. At Michael Garron, some elective surgeries have been rescheduled, but the emergency department remains open. Without computers, staff have reverted to working on paper.
I think all of us felt that the process was slower than usual. And so I think in places like clinics, it can be frustrating when you're looking for paperwork and you're not used to it.
The code gray at the hospital is expected to be lifted by week's end, but getting all computers fully back up and running, that will take a few more weeks. Cass Russi, CBC News, Toronto.
Microsoft says hackers with ties to Iran's government targeted a U.S. presidential campaign recently. The company didn't reveal which campaign, but Reuters is reporting it was President Donald Trump's and that the attempt was unsuccessful. Microsoft's corporate vice president writing today that 4 accounts were breached. The company says a group called Phosphorus is behind the hack, which happened between August and September. For years, overseas scammers have targeted Canadians, stealing not just millions of dollars, but identities too. Law enforcement has either had trouble reaching them or chosen not to touch them. Well, tonight, our journalists have traveled to India, going where even the RCMP investigators haven't been, inside the illegal tech support scam. Here's David Common.
In the heart of India's largest city, a nefarious call center is targeting Canadians. It took months, but we convinced a worker to take a hidden camera inside.
That is the reason I'm calling you, sir. I do know you are too old and you are not a savvy of a computer. That is the reason I'm calling you. Your identity is getting compromised, okay, by 2 unauthorized people.
These are tech support scammers, one of the most widespread scams targeting Canadians, especially the elderly and new immigrants.
How much money was stolen from you?
$3,000.
$3,000.
Nahid Thilipos had a problem with her smartphone, went online to find a solution, but the number that appeared led to a scammer.
When the guy answered, he said, "This is Apple, what can we do for you?" And he said, "There are hackers from Russia."
Thilipos paid big to fix it, not realizing it was a scam. Thousands of others have been drawn in with on-screen pop-up warnings and more. Once the scammers connect to your device, they can steal even more.
We've had situations where, different ID has been taken out on people and fake driver's license and whatnot, going all the way up to, your house being sold without you knowing. Yeah.
With a threat that serious targeting Canadians, you might wonder why law enforcement isn't able to do what we've done.
What does it say that we were able to get inside a call center like this, to get right inside of it, but there aren't raids going on against a place like that by RCMP or Indian police?
Yeah, no, I applaud your efforts for getting there, but once again, police alone cannot solve this issue.
The RCMP say they are working to shut down these kinds of operations, but it's especially hard across international borders. David Common, CBC News, Mumbai.
Watch the full Marketplace investigation tonight at 8 p.m. or stream anytime on the CBC Gem.
Starting Monday, the city is going to try a brand new pilot project here on Queen Street. I'm Greg Ross. Coming up, I'll tell you how they're going to try and keep traffic flowing during peak hours.
Peel police have arrested and charged 4 teenagers in connection to the murder of a Brampton man. It happened in August on a residential street. Police say the victim was trying to stop a series of break-ins. Linda Ward has more.
It was early in the morning on August 2nd. 63-year-old Glensbrook Oliver and his son Christopher looked out to see a group of young men stealing from vehicles outside their Lanebrook Drive home. They decided to take matters into their own hands, and it ended in tragedy.
Mr. Oliver and his son confronted the suspect along with 4 suspects who were all working together breaking into cars on the street. During this confrontation, Mr. Oliver was with his son and both were stabbed.
Christopher survived, but his father died at the scene. Grainy surveillance footage shows the suspects fleeing in a dark-colored Lexus SUV. That was all police had to go on until yesterday, when they executed 4 search warrants in the Toronto area and made their arrests. And they say those arrests are a result of some very creative investigative techniques, but they won't go into specifics. A 16-year-old boy has been arrested and charged with second-degree murder and attempted murder. A 17-year-old and 2 18-year-olds charged with possession of stolen property and breaching bail conditions. And police say a 5th suspect seen in that vehicle the night of the murder is still outstanding. At today's news conference, the inspector stressed that even despite these arrests and despite these good intentions, it's best to leave the policing to the police.
You always just call 911, be the best witness you can be, provide the best updated information to police. But you know, it's not worth it to approach somebody, and we're not trying to judge by any means in what happened in this tragic situation, but I think we have to remember that property can always be replaced, but people can't.
The Peel Regional Police Chief spoke at today's news conference as well, saying the family is pleased with these arrests, but still struggling with the loss.
They're very thankful for the community support. They are part of the fabric of the community and we're well known, but their request, of course, is that this is a significant moment. They are continuing to grieve.
Linda Ward, CBC News, Mississauga.
The City of Toronto has announced a new pilot project in an effort to keep traffic moving during rush hour. The plan focuses on Queen Street and drivers who stop in no stopping zones. Greg Ross joins us live from Queen and Bathurst. Now, Greg, how are they going to deter drivers from stopping?
Well, Dwight, this is all about being quicker and more efficient when it comes to moving parked cars or ticketing drivers who stop, even if it's just to drop somebody off. City staff are working very closely with Toronto Police on this one, and they've come up with a way that they can move more cars in a shorter period of time.
You have bikes, cars, and the streetcar all fighting for space.
Natalie Romano knows all too well how congested Queen Street can be during rush hour. She regularly takes the streetcar and has learned to always leave some extra time.
It can take twice as long sometimes during rush hour.
The mayor says a great deal of the traffic is created by people who stop or park their vehicles on the street during peak times, despite signs that clearly say it's not allowed.
Those people inconvenience everybody else.
Starting Monday, if you stop on Queen Street during rush hour, the mayor says you'll be moved.
Illegally parked vehicles along Queen Street from Fallingbrook Road in the east all the way to Roncesvalles in the west will be relocated to a nearby designated side street or to another no parking area.
Instead of taking vehicles to impound lots, which are located outside of the downtown core, they'll simply be moved to side streets. This tow truck driver says under the current system, he can only move about 1 car an hour. But starting Monday,
I can do by myself at least 7, 8 within an hour.
Violators will still take a hit to their pocketbook as well.
Vehicles will continue to be tagged. It's a $150 ticket for stopping in a no stopping area.
But some think drivers are getting off a lot easier.
That's way better than getting it down to the impound, then you got to go there, pay a fine.
Are you saying it incentivizes people to break the law even more?
You didn't hear that from me, man.
The pilot project will last for 6 weeks, and the mayor says they're going to use Bluetooth technology to track its effectiveness.
It'll allow us to see what happens during the project, and then that'll allow us to make better decisions after the 6 weeks are over.
The mayor says this is just one of the things that they're looking into doing to try and keep traffic moving during rush hour. He says by the end of the year, they also plan to have more traffic agents in many of the major intersections around the city. And he says they expect to have automated speed enforcement on many of the major routes very soon as well. Dwight?
Thank you, Greg. If you've ever walked by that globe monument on Queen West in Parkdale and wonder why it looks kind of abandoned now, you're not the only one. Residents who remember when it was first put up back in 2005 recall the days it was a fountain that even lit up at night. As Talia Ricci tells us, there's new hope the piece will be returned now to its past glory.
It's been a recognized landmark, a meeting spot, and a part of the scenery in Parkdale for over a decade. Once an illuminated fountain, the World Peace Monument now runs dry.
Every time I walk by, it just looks like it's abandoned, and that makes me sad. I really didn't even want to claim it as mine, and when I finally saw it, it was not made anywhere close to what I was expecting.
The artist behind it says he wasn't consulted while it was being built. He sent us these drawings of what he hoped it would look like. But he says when it didn't match his vision, he took his name off of it. The same artist that created that monument also made these 4 copper trees that are on the wall of a recreation center across the street. And he says this piece is one that he's proud of.
Because I made the trees and I finished them off to exactly the way I would a work of art. Like the last person touching it to make it finished was me.
Residents tell tales of the trash they've spotted inside the structure.
My daughters were 4 and 7, they love it, and they've tried to climb inside and everything. But when we were here in June, they got a real kick out of the fact that there was a pair of dentures inside of the globe.
You've lived here for 7.5 years, so you don't actually remember when this was a fountain?
No, it's always been kind of like this. It's always been have cigarette butts in it and looks kind of beat up, but if it was a fountain, I think that would be sick.
The Parkdale BIA says revamping the piece would be an expensive undertaking, but it's on their minds.
We do have structural damage. Our fountain is actually sinking, and so with that comes water damage.
The plan is to fix it when they build the Parkdale Community Hub a few years down the road. If that's the case, the artist says he'd even consider putting his signature on it again.
They could rework it to make it look closer to the original intent. I'd be very happy with that.
It is, after all, a monument about peace. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
We are getting ready for one sleepless night this weekend. Nuit Blanche starts tomorrow with art installations across Toronto and this year into Scarborough. The free event will run from sunset to sunrise. And earlier I met with one of the creative minds working on Nuit Blanche, Umberine Inyat, is with the City of Toronto. We started by talking about this year's theme of Continuum.
Continuum basically means the work needs to continue. Us as a civilization, as humans, as people of Toronto, need to continue the work and how we're going to serve each other and humanity. And the piece behind us is called Lunar Garden. It's by Daniel Arsham, and it's a piece that calls for reflection. And if you think about where we are, we're in this concrete jungle, which is Toronto. You don't really get a lot of time to reflect. And so when you do have the opportunity to reflect, things can open up and you can connect with each other in a way you haven't been able to before.
Can you talk about some of the other installations and what people can expect when they check out Nuit Blanche this year?
Absolutely. So right down the street on Bay, we have the Raptors 25-year monumental championship sculpture.
Oh, my favorite already. I haven't even seen it yet. I like that, yes.
Yes, so it's called Raptors 25, and basically it represents peace to the past and reaching for the future. It's representing their 25th anniversary. It's talking about all the hardships they've been through, dedication, but also the championship and of course the glorious win. And it's by the artists Esma Mahmoud and Brian Espiritu.
Oh man, I'm also really looking forward to that. All right. You have a background in social work.
I do.
And I'm trying to figure out the juxtaposition of your social work background and your curator for art.
Yeah.
Right? You believe art has healing power.
Absolutely.
What do you mean when you say that? And is that tied to your social work?
Absolutely. I believe that art is a place for reflection. And anytime people reflect, they can open up and think about what they're holding on to, whether that's good, whether that's bad, and stuff that may be inside of them. And when you look at something like this garden, for example, it might get you to reflect on how you're feeling and maybe think about about how am I treating somebody? Why am I feeling good? Why am I feeling bad? And when you create a place like this that opens you up, what can happen is catharsis. And catharsis leads to change and positive change. And that's what we hope with art that we make today, is that you can use it to heal yourself and heal as a community by coming together and connecting.
You know, it's like we experience it and we're feeling these things, but I've never heard it articulated so well, so thank you for that.
My
and speaking
pleasure.
of articulation,
yes.
somebody's going to be talking at TEDx.
I am on October 26th.
Yes.
The theme for this year is Rise. And it's all about how we rise together and as how we rise as individuals. And Anthony Morgan from the City of Toronto is also going to be speaking. And he's going to be talking about his journey and how we need to rise to be better humans. And I'm going to be talking about how art can rise and help people heal.
We're looking forward to another incredible Nuit Blanche, and thank you for curating and bringing us all this incredible art.
My pleasure.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Thank you very much.
So, as folks are out there enjoying this beautiful art, will we need layers, jackets? What are we going to need this week?
We're going to need a few things. I feel like there's really going to be a sweet spot of the best time to get out there. Everyone always kind of says it's so busy at the beginning, so if you want to go a little bit later, just don't hold it till too late, or then you run the risk of having a few sprinkles starting to make their way in. But I mean, that's really late overnight. Most of it is looking very good, and the temperature's a little bit mild too. They aren't going to be tonight, however. Frost advisory in place, chilly. Good thing it's not taking place tonight. Saturday, our skies will be a little bit changeable, meaning at times there'll be a bit more cloud cover, but there's going to be a lot of sunshine, so it is a pleasant day. And then Saturday night into Sunday, we'll see showers coming back into our skies. These are the areas all included in the frost advisory. City of Toronto is not, but we're still talking about our temperatures down to zero or near zero in many cases for the GTA. Our current temperature is still just holding on there at 11 degrees, 8 up into Barrie, 10 degrees for those of you watching us from London. And again, we're not seeing much cloud cover tonight. And so with the winds easing up too, that kind of helps to allow with the cooler temperatures the frost to develop. If you do have some tender vegetation or a plant that you can still bring in that you normally bring in for the cooler months and then put out in the summer, tonight's probably that night to do it, or to protect any plants that you tend to do that with. I just want to show you this as we go through the overnight tonight. See these little sprinkles wanting to show up on the lake, and just kind of ride in early Saturday morning. There could be an isolated sprinkle there, especially to the east of the city. Otherwise, as I say, mostly we'll have sunshine mixed with clouds into Saturday and a lot of sunshine. And then it's overnight. Here we are, 3 a.m., starting to see some sprinkles make their way into the GTA and some light showers. But the bulk of Nuit Blanche is really going to be pleasant. And because of the cloud cover and because of the system moving in, we're actually going to see the temperatures holding kind of close to the daytime highs, only dropping a little bit. So it's not going to be too cool. Sunday, early in the day showers, improvement later. Overnight tonight, these... hard to get used to these kind of readings. Seeing these, for me to even put them in my forecast. Tomorrow, improvement with the temperature a little warmer than today. And Sunday, a lot warmer, up to 20 degrees. But there you go, overnight Saturday. Dwight, it only falls to 12 degrees.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
After the break, we head back to the Sheraton Hotel on Queen as the province and school boards negotiate with CUPE, trying to avert a strike that would close most schools on Monday. Stay with us. We will be right back. We want to update you now on our top story, the negotiations to avert a strike by 55,000 QP education workers. Lisa Shing joins us live once again from the Sheraton on Queen, where the union and the province are meeting right now. Lisa.
They are, Dwight. The negotiations started this afternoon at 4:30. They'll continue throughout the weekend here at the Sheraton in downtown Toronto. But we've also started seeing locals, QP local chapters, preparing in the event of a strike. They're making signs, actually practicing picketing as well. So just in case the negotiations don't go well over the next few days. At this point, though, the two sides say that they're both open to a deal, that they want a deal. So we'll have to see what happens. The point of contention right now is absenteeism, which is sick pay. The province says that it's costing a little too much. Meanwhile, the union says its workers are overworked. So if we do end up seeing a strike on Monday, essentially the province has two choices: either let the strike go on or legislate the workers back to work. And that means recalling the legislature. And either of those options isn't really great for the province, because you face either angry parents who have to deal with childcare, or, really cause up a stir in the legislature, which means Premier Doug Ford has to answer to the opposition's questions during question period. This is all playing out against a backdrop of the federal election campaign right now. And we know the federal Conservatives likely want the Premier to keep a bit of a low profile right now, to not stir things up or make Andrew Scheer look bad, essentially. So that may serve as a bit of an impetus to have the province and the union come together with an agreement before Monday to avoid any of that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few days, Dwight.
And a lot of anxious parents will be watching very closely. Thank you, Lisa.
Absolutely.
My mother always tells me to smile and put on a happy face.
That is Joaquin Phoenix playing the man who would become Batman's most infamous villain. Joker hits theaters across Canada today. Eli Glasner will look at the controversy surrounding the film, and he will share his review next.
Is it just
The acclaimed and controversial new film Joker opens tonight. It's already winning awards, but it also comes with warnings and even increased security at some theaters. Eli Glasner joins us with more on this now. And Eli, this movie seems to really be about the man behind the clown makeup.
Yeah, it's Arthur Fleck. So this is the character that Joaquin Phoenix is playing. And when we first meet Arthur, it's kind of a miserable existence. He is struggling with mental illness. He's living in this dingy apartment with his mother. He's trying to work as a clown of all things. And his mother tries to keep him positive. Let's take a closer look.
My mother always tells me to smile and put on a happy face. She told me I had a purpose to bring laughter and joy to the world.
Well, it's tough to bring laughter and joy to the world when you have that kind of stuff happening to you. And so the one thing he has that he can actually escape every night, it's the Murray Franklin show. Murray Franklin is kind of the Johnny Carson of Gotham City. He's played by Robert De Niro, and believe it or not, Arthur, although he's uncomfortable and awkward, although he has a condition that makes him laugh uncontrollably, he wants to be, of all things, a stand-up comedian. And then one night he gets the chance. He's actually on Murray's show, but not in the way he wants. Take a look.
And finally, in a world where everyone thinks they can do my job, check out this guy.
When I was a little boy and told people I was going to be a comedian, everyone laughed at me. Well, no one's laughing now.
You can say that again, pal.
And so you start to see the pattern there, which, like, one thing after another, it's like the city is just stomping on his face until Arthur actually pushes back. And it's by doing that he gets people's attention, but it's what he does that commands that attention that is so kind of unsettling.
Why are authorities worried about this film? Because they're not laughing. What do you think is driving these reports that the Joker movie could actually lead to real-life violence?
So let's be clear. Right now we have reports of increased security, extra police officers in L.A., in New York City. They say there are no confirmed credible reports right now. So it's more of a precautionary measure. But it comes from some early reviews that actually described Arthur as the patron saint of incels. Now, sadly, we understand what incels are, right? These online forums where these frustrated men who are so-called involuntary celibates meet, and this just kind of stew of frustration and hate and misogyny, which can act out in violence. Now, Arthur's own journey, part of it is his frustrations with a woman that he's sweet on, played by Zazie Beetz. She lives down the hall, and at one point, she does actually, there she is, pushes him away. So that could be part of the inciting incident that leads him to the Joker. And so you can see why this movie is so unsettling, but I also can see it as a cautionary tale. I mean, this picture of Gotham set in 1981, it wants to look more like something like Taxi Driver. It's a picture of a city that is overrun with garbage and super rats, and society is breaking down. His mental health is being cut. He can't get his medication. This is what happens when people are left to rot. And the one person trying to save the city, not the Joker, it's Thomas Wayne, someone running for mayor who says he's going to save the elite from the chaos and the clowns. Now, in the comic books, what happens? This comedian falls into acid and comes out with the white skin and green hair. In this movie, the toxic brew is the city. The toxic brew is society. And they only notice that guy when he picks up a gun. And that validation, that is what makes this so disturbing and, well, some might say dangerous.
And it sounds like a pretty deep and difficult part to play. How did Mr. Joaquin Phoenix do with this?
It's remarkable. I mean, I think the movie is kind of superficial and heavy-handed, but I've seen it twice now, and I can't ignore what Joaquin does with that part. He starts as this kind of meek man, almost a man-child, and then he dropped 52 pounds for the role, but he undergoes this transformation. There's this moment where he just lets go. He's going to become that guy, and we know what's coming, but even still, when he just frees himself and becomes the Joker, it is a moment of monstrous grace and remarkable potency. And so that's what's fascinating about this film. It is a bad film with an amazing performance at its heart. So 3.5 stars out of 5.
Thank you, Eli.
You're welcome.
It looks like it's warm out there, but it probably isn't. Colette's back with a look at your forecast for the weekend. Stay with us. We will be right back.
Hi, I'm Arthur Simeon, host of Accent on Toronto 2019, CBC's annual comedy showcase right here at the Danforth Music Hall. I'm going to be here with Toronto's top comedic talent on Wednesday, October 9th, 2019. Please go get your tickets today. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster. Please go get yours today. No, I mean like right now. Like go. Like right, go get. All right.
Against the boss's wishes, the kids made me turn on the heat last night, but I turned it off. I mean, we won't need it this weekend.
Tonight we might need it, actually. Well, it's, you know, we just had this discussion. I actually put the air conditioning on for my dog to be able to sleep comfortably. But most folks would find it a little cool tonight. Frost advisory in place. Doesn't include the city, but Dwight, most of the GTA.
Yeah, we're cutting you off. You said frost. That's it for us tonight. We'll see you back here on Monday. Good night, everybody.